today is Tuesday the 23rd of October. This is Paul Glumaz with the movement of LaRouche, and we are 2 weeks away from the midterm elections. Now, I want to bring this up to people because I think this is a key factor in this whole election that's coming up. Donald Trump is appealing to what some people would call the average American. The average American. And Donald Trump not only identifies with the average American, but he sort of speaks like the average American. And he exudes in larger and more exaggerated qualities, the qualities of average Americans. And these qualities are not beloved of the intellectual, or pseudo-intellectual class in our society. And something happened in the United States back in the 60s during the Vietnam War and the emergence of the new left, which replaced the old left. And what came out of the anti-war movement was the people who made it into college distinguished themselves from the working class because they made it into college and they became exempt from Vietnam. And these individuals had nothing but contempt, developed nothing but contempt against the working class, and the working class became identified with right wing, with fascism, with whatever. And so you had essentially this intellectual, or pseudo-intellectual element, going through the ranks of who are now in their 60s and 70s, who went through the ranks of because they had the advantages, and their attitude towards the general average population is very contemptuous, to say the least. And Donald Trump exudes that average American, the kind of bluntness, the kind of language. The average American is considered to be stupid, uneducated, uncultured, banal, and is considered to be uneducated. And this average American is different. They don't see themselves as black or white per se, although they may be black or white. They don't see themselves as Italian or Mexican or whatever, although they may be Mexican and Italian. They see themselves more, they don't see themselves as men and women. They see themselves first and foremost as American. They have an American aspect to them. And all of the problems that America has created in the world, of course, are blamed on them, right? They're the cause of the problem because they believe in America, and they are American, and America is a bad name in the world these days because of what has happened especially under Bush and Obama. But nonetheless, these people identify with being American, and they identify with Donald Trump because they see him as an example of who they are. Their inner self is not I'm black and I'm different per se. Their inner self is I am an American. I have, I work. I pay the bills. I raise a family. I may go to church. I may not. But their whole view of themselves is very different than how they're viewed by the media, how they're viewed by the so-called pseudo-intellectual class. And I say they're pseudo-intellectuals because they're not really intellectuals. Intellectuals are to be a real intellectual, you have to care about humanity. You can't be contemptuous. And to be a real intellectual, you have to have a love of truth. And This is not the case. These so-called formerly New Left people, they don't love the truth. They love being superior to the American people. They know better than the American people. They have been outside the United States. They've read more. They've been to college. They have professions. And these people, and I'm not saying all people who have professions are like that. No, but I'm saying these people are a very vocal part of our society. And a large numbers of them have gone into the media, especially into the media, and more probably, and into the into the educational system in the colleges, professors. So you have this element, and they hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the epitome of everything that is bad that they consider bad about America. It's the epitome of it, And all these Americans, these average Americans, they're seen as racist. They're seen as sexist. They're seen as intolerant, and so forth and so on. But a large portion of these average Americans are African Americans. They're Mexicans. They identify with being American. They don't necessarily see themselves first and foremost as in the way that this pseudo-intellectual class wants to see them as seeing themselves. Right, and you pick that up when you're out in the street, which I am. You pick that up when you have these large numbers of African Americans coming out supporting Donald Trump, and large numbers of Mexicans coming out supporting Donald. But who are these Mexicans? Who are these African Americans? Well, they're working class. They have jobs. They have families. They're thinking in terms of their families. They're not thinking of themselves as the victims of racial discrimination or of slavery. Yeah, that's the history. Yeah, there is that aspect to it, but that's not how they see themselves. They see themselves as Americans. And Donald Trump is tapping into that aspect of the American population. Okay. So everything from Make America Great to jobs to everything else, it's all about being an American, about American exceptionalism. Now, it is the case that these individuals don't really understand what has to be done, per se. They don't understand what has to be done. They don't understand the policies necessarily. They may have prejudices of different types, but on a deeper level, they are not the Republicans. They're not Republicans or Democrats. They're American. So we're seeing the activation of this quality. But then as this is being activated, the pseudo-intellectual class, the liberals, come in and say, well, this is populism. This is fascism. So they're labeling the activation of an American identity as being fascist, as being racist, as being misogynist, as being intolerant. But that's not what's really going on. These people are being activated as Americans. I'm an American. But that's fascist. So this is the kind of thing that's going on in this election. So you get these wild situations with the Kavanaugh thing, right? Where they just went all out on the sex thing. With it didn't matter. She had there was no evidence or anything like that. But that was the secondary. They just went all out to characterize Donald Trump through Kavanaugh, Donald Trump, and all the Republicans as sex predators, rapists, and what have you. They use this Kavanaugh thing to smear the so-called white male Americans, right? Who are not into LGBT and who are not, who are conservative or, family people, what have you. And in their mind, by doing this, they're going to get out the youth vote and the women's vote. They assume that this is going to get the vote out against these guys, against Trump. They assume against Trump and against the people that are running in the midterms, the Republicans that are running in the midterms. Now, the Republicans are very weak. There's the evangelical wing of the Republican Party. There's the libertarian wing of the Republican Party. There's the, the Rush Limbaugh balance the budget wing of the Republican Party. And then there's your traditional business part of the Republican Party. But they're not unified. They're totally fractionalized. But the only thing that's giving them unity right now is Donald Trump's America, this appeal to what is American. So, but they're weak. Their candidates are not the best. But, Ted Cruz, I hate to say this, I wouldn't vote for Ted Cruz. I don't care what anybody says. I wouldn't vote for Ted Cruz, but I probably would if I were in Texas right now, vote for Ted Cruz for Senate, just so that the Senate can stay Republican. And I'm not a Republican. I don't identify with the Republican Party, but I identify with the potential that Trump can carry out a policy that's in the interest of this nation. Therefore, as a Democrat, it's incumbent upon me to vote Republican. And we're running into thousands of people who are telling us that in the streets, at the post offices, in front of banks, and different places. We're running into people saying, I'm a Democrat, I'm voting Republican. Right? Or I was a Democrat, then I became an independent, and then I became a Republican. But I don't really, I'm just doing this Republican thing now. And so we're getting that in the population. It's quite something. But so they thought this Kavanaugh thing was going to create this a blue wave of female voters, going around saying I've been raped, too. I've been molested, or I've been sexually harassed, as if that's the unifying characteristic of why you should vote for bring the Democrats into the Congress. It's because you've been raped, and these white males don't understand what rape is, and therefore you should vote for the Democrats en masse, so you can get rid of these rapists. There's no politics there. Where's the politics? Where's the economics? Where's the whatever? It's not there. And they're assuming that that's going to bring these people out. And but people who don't identify with that, who don't identify as their primary identity being their sex, women especially, who don't identify with their primary identity being sex, are watching this thing and they're going, whoa, oh my God, look at that. I don't want to go anywhere near that. That is weird. That is strange. Okay, so that's the kind of stuff that's going on. Then you have, all of a sudden, we hear about this march of thousands of people marching in columns up from Honduras. How do you get to march from Honduras through Mexico? It's like an army of people, right? And they got police, there's vehicles, and it's like It's a caravan of thousands, 10,000, 8,000, 7,000, whatever it is, of people coming up. And they're going to crash into the United States. And they're going to try to crash through the United States border. And that's supposed to help defeat Donald Trump in the election? Because why are they doing this? This is happening right before the election. What's the message they're trying to communicate on Donald Trump? Is that he is anti-immigration, he is a racist, he is anti, bringing these people in, blah, 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 and abuse of, and all of that, right? And George Soros got on TV tonight saying the rumor that he's financing all of this is not true. Well, it probably is true, but so what? The point is, somebody has to put up millions and millions and millions of dollars for this to happen. It didn't come out of the pockets of the people of Honduras, that's for sure. And these people got paid to go on a march to crash into the United States. And then Donald Trump is saying, well, we can't let that happen. We're going to have the U.S. troops there to stop them from coming into the United States. Oh, Trump is a racist, anti-Mexican, anti-Honduran, anti-whatever. Look at this. And they think that's going to get votes? I mean, what is going wrong with these people? They think they're going to get votes out of that? They're going to be able to activate the Hispanic community and the southern part of the United States and California and Texas and all of that to go against Donald Trump? Well, there's an aspect of that there. But it's also going to activate, people are going to say, wait a second, I don't want my country invaded. I got to get out and vote for Donald Trump. So, or for the Republicans. So that's the kind of craziness that's going on at 2 weeks before the election. But this is a very profound situation. Because how is America going to adopt the policies that are in the interest of the United States of America if there's not a sense of being an American? Is it wrong for an individual to call themselves an American and try to be proud of being an American, even though all this other crap has been going on in the world? And so that is at the core of the situation. Now, so the real issue coming up in 2 weeks is going to be, will the average American who identifies with America, who wants to change America for the better, come out and vote? And that's not a race, that's not a sex thing, that's not an ethnic thing, that's not even a class thing. That cuts across all those divisions. And that's the issue. Because if they do come out in mass numbers, and these are people that have not, many of them have not before taken an interest in politics and are woefully uninformed, but nonetheless they identify with the nation. If they come out in sufficient numbers, then Trump will have the power to break out of the old paradigm. Trump will have the power to negotiate with Vladimir Putin, which it now looks like he's going to be meeting with Putin on the sidelines of the end of World War I day in Paris, or he's going to be meeting with Putin later on in the month in Argentina on the sidelines of the G20 meeting. Okay, so this is very serious stuff, because if he doesn't have the power to override the the forces that are running the wars, the United States is still in a war with Russia and China militarily through proxies. The proxy war that was launched against Russia and China, primarily Russia and now more China, beginning with China, but primarily Russia, that proxy war started with the Bush administration, continued under Obama. That proxy war has not been called off. So will there be a meeting with Putin, and will they end the proxy war? Will the United States end the proxy war with Russia? And will they come to terms on a lot of very crucial issues, including arms reduction? That's going to be the question. But none of that can be carried out if Trump doesn't have the power and the backing of the American people. And the only testimony to that backing, the only evidence of that backing is going to be in the midterm elections. So there's a lot of stake here. Okay, now, something very interesting has occurred in this respect internationally outside of at the ASEAN meeting in Singapore over the weekend. In the ASEAN meeting, you have 10 Southeast Asian countries. And this was a defense ministers meeting. The U.S. defense was there, the Chinese defense and the Russian defense ministers were there. And these are all the 10 nations. It includes Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Singapore, Brunei, and I think Myanmar is in that as well. I'm not sure. And these nations all defense ministers came to an agreement that the navies of all these nations will work with the Chinese in a military exercise defending the area from piracy and terrorism this year. And next year they'll do the same with the U.S. And what does this mean? This means the game of dividing that region between China and the U.S. is over. This is huge. So those are the kind of things that are going on. Now, many of you out there are wondering what the hell is going on with this guy Jamal Khashoggi. You know, the guy goes to get his to deal with his divorce and so he can marry this Turkish girl. And this whole thing, man, I tell you, this whole thing is wild. But one thing is for certain. Jamal Khashoggi is a high-level guy inside the Saudi establishment. He was the aide to Prince Turki. He was head of Saudi intelligence for decades during the whole creation of these terrorists. Then he was ambassador to London, and then after Bandar, he was ambassador to the United States for a while. And this was his special operative, who negotiated a deal in the 90s between Saudi Arabia and Osama bin Laden. He's now the celebrated journalist with the Washington Post, but he's a high-level guy. And during the 2002, LaRouche was being seriously considered in the Gulf states. He spoke at a major event with all the energy ministers meeting. What LaRouche was telling the Gulf states was they needed to prepare for the financial collapse. They needed to consider an alternative system. And two, they needed to understand that just pumping oil wasn't going to do it. They're going to have to develop a full set industrialization of the area, of the region. And it was Jamal Khashoggi, the right-hand man of Turkey in London, who led the attack on LaRouche and led the attack on breaking up any kind of ability to have conferences and ending the influence that the LaRouche movement was beginning to have inside the Arab world, inside the Gulf area. So he played the key role for that. So that's all I can tell you about him. Now the rest of it gets more bizarre by the hour. And I take it as a symptom that the British system is collapsing. The British monarchy and the Saudi monarchy are basically one and the same. And now there's a shift taking place. And the Saudis are now looking at other options. And I think this is part of what's going on. But it also has an impact on Donald Trump because Donald Trump is counting on the Saudi support. But Donald Trump is also counting on them stopping the financing of terrorism. So this is what's going on. But the question of, are you an American? And what does that mean? That's probably become the unspoken central issue of the midterm elections.